For the next 30 minutes, we will explore the unexplained. From mysteries beyond our galaxy to ghostly phenomena in our own backyard, we will dive into our psychic abilities and explore everything from conspiracies to the just plain weird. Welcome to 30-odd minutes. If the truth is out there, we will find it. But only by sheer accident.
Yeah! Hey! Welcome back to 30-odd minutes. I'm Jeff Belanger. It's great to be with you, fellow oddballs. How are you doing?
Hey!
All right.
Show us your odd.
Everybody's good. That's good to hear. Man, I'm so excited about tonight because this is one of my favorite topics because I'm a visual guy, I'm an artistic guy, and I think tarot, or tarot, as I'll be corrected pretty soon, is a fascinating topic when it comes to the occult and spiritual matters. Number one, is it just a card game? You know, could our past, our present, and our future be told in just the flip of a deck, the flip of a coin? That's one of the things we're going to talk about. But before we get in too far, I want to remind you, if you're watching live at 30oddminutes.com, jump in our chat room. Sarah and Rob are there. They'll help you out. If you've got questions, they can pass them up to me or to the guest, and you can interact. That's what this is all about. Send us your emails at info@30oddminutes.com. Would be glad to read them on the air or at least respond and say something clever if we can. Now, tarot. Oddballs here. We've had various experiences with them. Sarah, you actually do tarot.
Yes, I do.
Microphone. Right.
Got it.
Yeah. How'd you get into it?
To be honest, I started in my teens, and it was really because it was kind of a taboo thing to do from where I was, so it was kind of enticing for that. Close, yes.
Right, sorry. So you got into it because it was taboo, and were you reading for your friends and things like that?
Yeah.
And
Under cover, of course.
Of course. Isn't that great? And now we're on TV doing
I
it.
know. Flaunting it to the world. Hi, Mom.
Yeah, we're going to just corrupt everybody. Interesting stuff. And so here's the thing. Number one, it started as a card game in the 1400s in Italy, a card game like bridge for noblemen, and then it's evolved into a whole system. And today there's so many different aspects to the topic, so many different decks. I mean, it's incredible. There's a company called U.S. Games that manufactures most of them here in the United States, although they're not the only game in town. I mean, if you look at their catalog, they've got like Gummy Bear Tarot and Star Wars Tarot, and seriously, I mean, all these things, and you start to realize that it's because the artwork speaks to different people on different levels. And I think a classic example, I remember being in the Boston Museum of Art, and I was walking through, and I saw one of those paintings where it was like just a white canvas with this like swath of red. And I'm looking at this going, I got nothing. I could do this. I could do this right now, no practice, nothing. And then this little old lady walks by, and she's just like, oh my, look at that. And I'm like, really? Really? That does it for you. That's something. But you start to realize that's it's such a subjective thing when you're talking about art and stuff that speaks to your soul. And tarot's the same thing. The Rider-Waite deck, which is what, if people know tarot, that's probably what you're thinking of right now. It's kind of those cards behind us, kind of like that. It's what you think of. But there's so many other decks. There's very Renaissance type artwork. There's very New Agey type of artwork because it speaks to different people on different levels. And so that's what we're excited about. That's what we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to get an actual reading, which I'm excited about. I want to know my past, present, and future. Good to know, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
I mean, it's good to know. And we're going to.
I see beer.
I do. Oh my God, Matt Moniz, I think you're psychic. There is beer in our future.
No, just psychotic.
Is that right? Well, there's definitely some psychosis involved. So, without much further ado, I want to introduce our guest, Scotty Roberts. He's been reading tarot since the mid-1980s. He's a former seminarian who worked in evangelical ministry with teens, which we're going to talk about. He's the author of both fiction and nonfiction. He's lectured on the subject. He's a lead investigator for Dead Reckoning, and he's made a living as a commercial artist. Plus, he's a new dad. Congratulations, Scotty. Please welcome from our studios in St. Paul, Minnesota, Scotty Roberts.
Hello.
How you doing, Jeff?
Good. Scotty, how are you?
I'm doing well.
Well, let's talk a little more about the history of tarot, which you always say tarot, and I know that's probably the right way to say it. So
you say tarot, I say tarot.
Let's call the whole thing off. Right, potato. Great song, great song. So I mean, let's talk about the history. How did it evolve from a game of bridge to, this system today?
There's some different views, of course, on exactly how it evolved into what it is. But I know one of the main factors behind it was converted into a game because there was some aspects of it that were outlawed. The whole divination process. Think of the Reformation period. Think of the Dark Ages prior to that, and then think of how people were burned at the stake and the things that they were executed for in different ways over religious matters and spiritual matters. This was something that you even look at biblical times where King Saul had outlawed divination in the land, including this sort of thing, not done with cards, but at the same time, he went to the witch at Endor himself in secret, because it's not that he didn't believe it, it's that he didn't want his country practicing it. And so when it became a card game, it was to hide the fact that they were actually using them for divination.
And so, I mean, once it starts to get to be used for divination, is this putting religious people in an uproar? Is this a problem?
It is for some people. And for me, I think that I've gone through all the Old Testament passages, the New Testament passages as well, and I've got a pretty solid theological base for what I do. Now, I have to tell you, as you mentioned in the introduction, my background is very conservative, fundamentalist, Baptist college and seminary, and that is how I was brought up. My seminarian.
Our first one on the show, I think, huh? All right. I think you're our first Baptist seminarian on the show, so congratulations.
I hate to disappoint, I'm no longer a Baptist,
right.
Nor am I a seminarian.
Right.
But I was both at one time, and it was very conservative, ultra-conservative, and this kind of thing would be considered the work of the devil. Coursing with spirits is the same, and divination, as it's mentioned in the Old Testament, is in those circles the same thing as communing with Satan or with demonic presences in order to get messages that would draw people's attention away from God. That is why they didn't always dispute their accuracy. I think they believed in their accuracy to the most part. They just thought that it distracted people from God's attention. What I bring to the table, the faith that I have, is I believe it's God. It's your angels, it's your spirit guides, are the ones that govern the process. There's no such thing as a random shuffle of the deck. There's no such thing as coincidence. And that you have to have a modicum of faith when you read the cards and when you get read, that something out there kind of sees you and knows what's going on. And what I've seen over the last 20 years of reading cards, and really only 6 in dead earnest, if you will, over this last 20 years, I've seen more accuracy come out of the cards than I have anything else. I would say that the minuscule proportion of readings that don't make sense to the person being read probably fall, if I were to make a rough estimate, under 1% from the number of readings I've given and the number of people that walk away confused. So I find it to be very accurate. I find it to be the rules about divination in the Old Testament fall under some of those same mandates that tell you if you have a rebellious child, you ought to bring him to the city elders and have him stoned at the city gate.
Right.
It comes under some of the same mandates in the New Testament about women keeping their heads covered in church and not speaking in church, but going home and asking their husbands rather than speak in church if they have questions about Scripture. Those are the same mandates that surround the mandates of this stuff. And so I find that there was a lot of cultural, just like there is nowadays. You find there's a lot of cultural problems with it. I put up at the local grocery store here in my small farming community out in the country in Wisconsin. Every week I'm putting cards up on the bulletin board. I've never got a single call from anybody in this town, but my cards all mysteriously disappear every week. So.
Right. Well, I collect them, so thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Well, so how does a seminarian get interested in tarot? Was it seminary first and then tarot, or vice versa? Same time?
I think it was, as I said in my my book that's in progress, I started writing it with the opening line saying, I think I spent an inordinate amount of time lying on the top of my mother's garage as a kid watching the stars. I think it's that curiosity of a kid. I always had, and I think people who have that curiosity are the ones that are going to get into this stuff.
Right.
If you don't have that curiosity, you know, if you're a math club member at school, you're probably not going to get into much of this stuff. That's my guess. So I had a draw from a very early age. My aunt, bless her heart, my late aunt, who passed away about 15 years ago, she was a self-acclaimed witch. Not any organized thing, not like Wiccan or pagan or anything. She was just a witch. And she would say, "Are you a good witch or a bad witch?" And then she'd say, "No, I'm a sandwich." I remember that from my youth. And she was the one that read tarot, and she had Ouija boards, and she'd make these things all on her own. And she kind of drew my curiosity. When I started seeing ghost activity, when I started seeing some of the stuff that she did actually produced valid answers, it drew my curiosity.
Yeah.
She's pitching.
Congratulations. That's
Thank you.
No, that's good stuff, and we love it. We love babies. That's good. Hey, Scotty, we do have a question in the chat room. Sarah, what's going on?
I do. All right, Scotty. We have one from Christy. She has heard that tarot cards can only be gifted to you, and she wants to know, is it okay to go out and buy your own and read from those as well?
I've actually never heard the claim that they can only be gifted to you. Maybe in some circles or some sets of belief. And I think, like with everything, Jeff, that you look into, you can find 100 different people that have 300 different opinions on the thing. And so what I found is that the cards will draw you. And it's really a card deck that you're comfortable reading. It speaks to you. There's that little spidey sense, if you will, that goes on in the back of your head that says, ah, that's the deck. For me, I use the Touchstone Tarot by Kat Black. And she does also the Golden Tarot. And uses Renaissance images, and she's manipulated digitally some Renaissance art and put in all the imagery, and that really spoke to me. So no, I think you can just walk into your local metaphysical shop, and you can pick up any card that speaks to you, any deck that speaks to you.
And like we mentioned earlier, art is such a subjective thing. One person's idea of art is another person's idea of junk, and you're an artist. I mean, you made a living as an artist for a number of years, and you still do illustration and things like that. Yeah, right. Yeah, still doing that kind of stuff. And so, I mean, how much of a role does the art play? Is that what speaks to you? Is it?
For me, that's a big thing, because I'll see some people that aren't creatively inclined, but they use decks that are full of the triangles and the little shapes and the stuff like that. And those don't speak to me. I look at those decks and I get nothing. It feels blasé to me.
Right.
When I pick up this deck, like I just take a card right off the top of the deck. You look at a picture like that.
Right.
That speaks to me personally. It's art, and there's something to it. So I think it's all in a really personal preference. Plays a lot into it.
So you just picked up the 5 of coins, as we saw. And
I did.
Does every card have a meaning, a specific meaning?
Every card has a meaning. You got 78 cards in the deck.
Right.
Some decks have a few more that have been added over the years, depending on the author of the deck. But each card, to me, when you look at it, each card has a really vague meaning. And it's how you interpret the card for the specific person you're reading. And it's how the cards all stack up together in a deck. Like, you might get a card like the 5 of coins there. 5 of coins says it's the card of impoverishment, of deprivation, saying you've misinvested something. It's got a couple on the front standing in rags in the snow outside the prosperity of the church window. But there's also the message that once you get the card in the read, the light's already at the end of the tunnel. So it's kind of a short-lived thing. Now, all by itself, it's got that meaning. How do you apply that to somebody? If they ask for a single card, it might come out with a very strong message. If they have a full reading, there's going to be 10 cards in that deck that all start to play off of each other. And people I've read for, I know I've read for Sarah in the past at an event, and she could tell you how the cards stack up and how the messages flow together.
Right. And I mean, so is 10 cards normal for you to get a complete reading?
I do a 10-card spread at the events. Now, that normally takes about 45 minutes to an hour. When I'm doing the events, I'll abbreviate it, but I like the 10 cards for the fact that it gives you a lot more information to go on.
Right.
And the 3-card spread is just simple. When I do like radio shows or very quick 5 to 10 minute readings, I'll pull 3 cards, and usually a 4th is kind of a culmination of the 3.
Well, let's do one. We had talked earlier. Right. You said I was going to be a victim here, so
I read you.
Yeah, let's do. Unless you prefer someone else.
Here we go.
All
I'm going to shuffle 3 times for you. I don't think there's any magical thing about the 3, but for me, there's some theories out there that say 3 is the best way to shuffle. The perfect number of 3, and it also, to me, just rearranges the deck. If there is somebody out there, God, your angels, your spirit guides, if they're rearranging this deck for you, it's all preordained already. And all this is doing is putting it in. Now, if you were here, I'd have you cut the deck, so I'll do that on your behalf.
All right, thank you.
You are welcome.
This is exciting.
And something I will always do, if say I'm shuffling and I flip a card off the top by accident and it flips up, I'll pick that up and we'll use that as our first card, which I didn't do tonight. Okay, I'm going to lay out 3 cards for you. Now, some people read reversals. I don't. The more reading reversal is if the card is upside down when it comes off the deck, has a different slant to the reading. I don't read them that way because I believe, and I've come to believe, that every card has its inherent positive and negative. So your first card, Jeff, is the card of your present. This is your current circumstance. It's kind of a snapshot of the here and the now. And you've got the High Priestess card.
All right.
Now, the High Priestess card stands for, in general, the epitome of the female intuitive. It's that idea of uncovering the secret mysteries. It's a more esoteric card. It speaks to Jeff Belanger. If this is you, it's saying right now something in your current, either a microcosm of your current, meaning it's a smaller thing and it doesn't apply broadly, or something very major for you. It's saying your intuition is growing, it's building, there's insight coming. She's holding books and scrolls, and the idea with this card is that idea of uncovering, opening up the books, uncovering the mysteries of life. Now, if you were to get a little more detailed, if I saw other cards in this reading that would apply, I've seen this card many times. The High Priestess card stands for not just uncovering those esoteric messages, but that something is hidden from you, hidden from view. And in your current, you need to be looking for something that's being kept from you. And many times the card stands for infidelity, disloyalty, adultery, things like that. But there would have to be other cards, or I don't see that here. There would have to be other cards encircling it in the reading to really make that message stand out. By itself, it says you're expanding, you're looking into things. There might be some things that you have to open up and you have to dig into in order to get the meat for yourself.
All right. Got it.
Recent past is the 7 of Coins. Now, this particular card, the 7 of Coins, shows a woman sitting at a potting table, and the idea here, the metaphoric on the card is you planted seeds, you've tilled the ground, you've weeded it, you've watched it grow, and now it's coming to fruition. You can stay on that path, or you have a very good opportunity that's off on this path. And it's just saying you're kind of at a crossroads, but you can take either path, and either one's going to be successful for you. Good example of this card, I had a good friend who worked in a hair salon in downtown Minneapolis. And she'd been there for years and could have been there the rest of her life and made very good money and been very successful. She had an investor come and say, we should open up your own shop, and she was considering that. So she could have stayed where she was, or she could have moved into something over here, and it would have been perfectly successful. Now, this is your recent past, which means this moment backwards. Last few hours, last few days, last 2 to 3 weeks at the outside. This is energy that's kind of brought you juggernauting to your present and dropped you off in your present. Doesn't mean it's not going to pick up again. Just means that that's where you've been. And this is one that says options, opportunity, something being presented to you in the recent past.
So this is interesting.
Where you could veer off.
So I could take this to mean something like, this show could be the
You could take it to mean this show.
Or would you like fries with that?
Yeah. Exactly.
Another opportunity.
And
pays
also,
more.
the High Priestess card on top of that is saying that whatever that thing is, it's starting to open up more for you. You're starting to get more insight and a little more clarity, a little more vision.
All right.
And very interestingly, the card of your near future, which is this moment on. It's later today, next few days, the next couple, 3 weeks at the outside. And by the way, it hasn't happened yet. So I say the near future card is always mutable. It's changeable.
Right.
You move into your future and you move things around. But right now, the current energy that's going on for you is pushing you right into this. You've got the Sun card. Now, the Sun card, you see it's got the bright little baby. It looks like my son there. Sunflowers in the background, the big white steed, the sun in the sky. What this card stands for is moving into a time where there's absolute clarity, absolute vision. It's like sun's out, you can see for miles and miles is the idea. And it's this card that says right now, while you have this vision and clarity, Take opportunity that is coming. Make hay while the sun shines. It's one of the phrases I read early on with this card. And all this means is that the stuff that you've had in your past, the opportunity, splitting into being able to move into something else, gaining the insight of that high priestess, you are moving into a time where you can put that to play because you got great vision. And there's opportunity there. Now, the only caveat with this card is that the sun is cyclical. It sets as well. So it's saying the time is limited. And I put this up because it's the near future, about 2 to 3 weeks in the time that this opportunity is there and that the sun is shining, that there's clarity.
Right.
Now, final card, if I throw a culmination of all of this, you've got the world card. That's this one right here.
Oh, that's awesome. I've got the whole world.
Now, what the world means, the card says you've either been through some difficulty or you've worked yourself through the stuff to get to where you need to be, so much so that whether you realize it or not, you're influential. It's the card of being the teacher. The world is like your oyster. You have gained because of the hard work you put in, and people are watching and seeing how you have done. It's like that phrase. It says each one of us, it's said, can influence up to 250 people in our lifetime. How will you be influential today? That's kind of the background question to that. It's just saying whether you know it or not, you're teaching, because people are looking at Jeff Belanger and saying, look what he did, look how he achieved that, look how he overcame that, and this is where he is. So it's not that trite kind of influence, it's that influence that says somebody out there is being moved by the things that you do. So it's a card that also encourages and maybe even admonishes a bit to say, be careful because you're being watched. People see you, people notice you, you don't live in a vacuum.
Is that on? Is the camera on? Holy cow. Hey, you're right. We are being watched. We're being watched right now.
Okay,
Okay.
you are being watched, yes.
We do have another question in the chat room, Sarah.
We do. They
All
want to
right.
know if there's anything Scotty won't answer or anything he might see in a reading that he won't reveal.
That broke up on me. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I got it. It's so the viewer wants to know if there's anything in a reading you wouldn't pass on, information that.
There are things that are really hard to pass on,
Right.
but there are not things that I won't pass on. I had a very difficult reading come up this last weekend. I was at an event, and I read a woman, and it was really a hard reading. And I said, you know what? I said, this is tough stuff. And I said, I want to make sure I'm not misinterpreting anything. You know, you always want to, especially when you're delivering a damaging message. And the way I do it is I don't water down the message, but I soften the tone. If I see a card that, I've never seen a card, by the way, that tells anybody they're going to die or anything like that. But I saw a card that gave some really devastating information. And I said, you know, this could just be that it's telling you to look for this and this. And then I stopped and I said, you know, I hate to tell you this. I said, I'm watering it down. I said, because the blow is hard. I said, so let's do this. Let's take the last card, put it down, and we'll reshuffle the deck and do a whole new reading on top of that last card. And we got the same exact message. Not all the same cards, but the same exact message. And so I said, you know, this one's a tough one. You're going to have to go home. You're going to have to think through this. And I said, just keep in mind, you're getting a tarot reading. This is not cast in stone. You have to go home and take these other elements with you and look at what you need to be doing and look at what you need to look at and judge the matter at that point.
And so with things like tarot cards, would this almost be like an extension of our psychic selves? I mean, because you're interpreting based on meanings, based on the draw, based on the person you're reading for. I mean, is it almost just like crutch is the right word, training wheels maybe?
It's a crutch. I have said very boldly and brazenly that for me, the tarot is like a psychic crutch.
Okay.
I prefer, let me back that up, when I really struggled with trying to decipher what was psychic intuitive message versus what was, I've been in counseling in the past, I know people, I work with people all the time, and I really had a hard time shuffling that stuff around in my head.
Right.
And of course the answer always came back to me, well, they're one and the same. And I'm like, well, thanks, that helped. So what I do, I've been told by many people you know, people you've talked to, say, Scotty, lose the cards, go direct. And I've done that a couple of times, and thank God it's been somewhat accurate when I've done it, but I'm very uncomfortable with it. I prefer the positive crutch of laying out a card, grabbing a card and says, oh, this card right here, the Three of Swords, this says heartbreak. This means something's going on. It's melancholy of a temporary nature.
Right.
And I can tie it to this. And you know what, Jeff? I have never yet, with rarest of exceptions, I've never yet seen a reading come out that's confused the hell out of me.
Well, that's
The
awesome.
person being read.
Well, listen, we only have a few minutes left, but I do want to get to Dead Reckoning a bit, and we actually you sent us a clip. If we could play that and take a look at something else you're working on.
Sure.
Do we have that ready? Very cool. So, okay, this begs the question: does the world need another paranormal show?
No.
Give us the pitch. Give us the pitch. Come on, we got like a minute and a half here.
This is like watching a doctor show or an ER type of show or a cop show, and you go, God, the television airwaves for the last 30 years sure been glutted with cop and doctor shows, haven't they?
Right.
I think as long as the opportunity is there to make something good that doesn't just mimic what's already being done, I think you might have something formulaic that works.
Right.
What the approach I'm taking is I wanted to have a show that not only satisfied my love of history, but my love of the paranormal. It started out in my head, the concept was a historical show. And I thought, nothing's been done up here in the upper Midwest to any great extent where you see much paranormal investigating or you see much historical work done, at least not in passing. And up here, you've got some amazing sites over the last 200 years from Rev War up here in the Minnesota and the Wisconsin area. You go out to the Dakotas, you've got the Custer Battlefield out in Wyoming. You've got in the Dakotas all the Wounded Knee, Fort Robinson, Fort Snelling right here in St. Paul. It's right next door to the airport, and it's the Dred Scott case happened there, and his quarters are still there. There was an internment camp there where 300 Native American Indians died in the winter of 1862 from deprivation and starvation. You got all this history up here,
right?
And we've gone to some of these places, and already, just in brief visits there, you start picking stuff up. And I thought, what a great concept to be able to combine history, teach something, and then see if we can't raise something paranormal.
Of course. And so, real quick, we only have a few seconds left, but so as an intuitive and as a tarot reader, can you bring that to a paranormal investigation?
Yeah, you can. I have not yet found a really good way to use the cards to decipher someone. If you don't really know who you're talking to, it's very hard. You can get a random card and say, what the hell does that mean? Who does that refer to? So I haven't found them very useful yet in a investigation, but I know there are those who do it. I just haven't looked into it.
Right, right. Well, good stuff. Scotty Roberts, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. If you want more information on Scotty, go to our website, 30oddminutes.com. We'll have links and all kinds of other great stuff to what he's doing. Is it in the cards? You decide. Pick these things up. See if they speak to you. Learn the reading. Till next time, stay odd.
Scott.